Yes. Juan, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, saved in time. We were going to make one where the crab hand again.
All right.
Oh.
No claw. Just the boring old talk.
Oh, what?
All right. If you weren't here at the lightning talks, that's what this is about. Okay. It's not my fault if I go over 3 minutes now. I will say that. Okay. So Napari is an n-dimensional image viewer for Python. You can see what it does in the picture. I also gave a talk about it yesterday. Check it out. Check the recording when it comes up. How long will that take? I don't know. OK, we released 0.417 and 0.4.18. Yeah, 0.1 is the new 1.0. And we have release notes on the website. I'm not going to talk about all of the things that those things do. We talked a lot about maintainer burnout at this conference. I'm not going to say burnout, but the point is it's a very hard work being a maintainer, and we have a new steering council. So on the top left are people who were in the project for a long time, and we are all very grateful. And I'm still around. I'm fine. OK, and we got some CZI targeted funding, so $200,000 per year, which goes quickly, you wouldn't believe. But they also gave us $100,000 matching funds, so any donations to Napari will get matched by CZI. So if you're interested in supporting our work, then please check it out on our NumFOCUS page. What's current and what's next? So we're working on making everything asynchronous. Until now, anything you did in the viewer blocked the UI. And so if you had data that was remote and very slow, it would take a while to load. Now it's all happening sort of in a background thread. So this is a demo. It's not in Napari proper yet, but that's an exabyte of data dynamically generated and rendered, which is pretty cool. That's by Kyle Harrington from CZI. We're working on a unified declarative plotting API that's inspired by Altair. Thank you, Altair. We love you. And multi-canvas. Right now, there's only one canvas in Napari, but there's lots of situations where you want multiple canvases that are synchronized. And then consistent physical space and units so that you can really look at your physical data in the space that it's meant to be. And we have a public roadmap that you can see the URL at the bottom. So check it out. That's it.
I just wanted to say, whoever took a picture with their flash on, I see you, I feel you, I appreciate you. OK, now we have an update on Spyder from Cam Gerlach.
Alrighty, everybody. I'm Cam Gerlach here for Spyder, which is the Scientific Python Development Environment. So Spyder is a community-developed open-source IDE for scientific programming written in and for Python, and it's designed for scientists, engineers, and analysts. So kind of what's our current status? Spyder 5.x is still in bug fix and compat fix mode, but we have made a few improvements. Spyder 6.x is our next major version. The first alpha is already out. We got 2 more alphas, some betas, and release candidates due out before the end of 2023, and we should have the final release by the end of the year. So looking forward to that. But first, some minor improvements to Spyder 5.x. We have a new our new Windows installer now supports automatic updates if you select that option. It also restores the state of undocked panes on startup, so you can kind of arrange your windows how you like, and it'll restore it exactly how you had it. We've improved printing and fixed some issues with the dark theme with printing. We've improved performance of the editor, of auto-completion, and of the outline. And we've also made the code analysis run in whatever environment that you select. So it's not locked to the current environment. So now the part I'm really excited about, what's coming in Spyder 6. Well, first of all, the thing I'm most jazzed about is the new environment and package managers. And everybody says, oh, it's so hard to do packages in Python. Installing them, it can be a real hassle, especially for new folks, kind of getting things in the same environment as they're installing into, running the code in that environment. Not mixing pip and conda and conda-forge. So we actually have a new environment and package manager. We've actually already developed most of it. and it'll allow installing packages, removing packages, updating them, and it'll tie that to your project. So you just open a project, and then whenever you install packages, remove packages, and also and run code, it all goes in the same environment automatically. And it also allows you to export conda lock files, which then can be imported by other Spyder installs, or by a number of other tools that support that for full reproducibility. And this actually works both locally and on remote machines. And not only that, you can actually connect to, you can run your code and host your code files on remote machines. And you run kernels, like say on servers or on a cluster, or say on a cloud instance, or even just on your machine back at work. So we actually have those features coming up. And we also have new conda-based installers, which will allow you to actually install. It'll install just Spyder, but then you can. It'll allow you to create other conda-based environments. One created automatically, and any more as you choose. Spyder will still work with other Python installs, but you can also create your own and not actually have to install conda or mini conda separately. And finally, we have a bunch of other improvements, especially in the UI UX, making Spyder easier to use for users, and also hopefully a little bit more fun. So thanks for your time, and happy Spydering.
Thank you, Cam. Up now, we have an update on YT given by Chris Havlin.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Chris. So YT, the 3D, 2D analysis visualization package, has had a number of updates in the past year. So we've had a couple of feature releases that have brought in some cool new work. Notably, we have a number of new data formats, front ends that YT can load data from. So we have CF Radial for all your weather-y data, Chimera if you like supernovae, and then Choya for GPU-based astrophysics. This is one image from courtesy of Ronan Hicks of the Chimera front end showing a supernova. Pretty cool, pretty exciting. He did a lot of work to get this in that utilized a lot of the work that the YT community has put in to kind of generalize our front end process. So let's keep going. Other new features in these releases, so you can now load data into a front end without actually building the whole front end. You can actually just supply functions, which is cool if you work a lot with HDF files. We now have a generic HDF5 file loader for gridded data. You can now project particle plots on off axes, so you don't need to project along the normal axes. You can install a lot of the dependency. Installation has been reworked, so the optional dependencies are a bit easier to handle. And you can also load in stretch grids. There's a lot of advances in sort of the broader YT ecosystem. There's a lot of tools related to YT that are released in separate packages. So unit, the unit-aware array package has had a lot of updates lately, a lot of bug fix releases, a lot of performance improvements. YT IDE is an interactive visualization library that has had a couple more beta releases, and then the widgets library also has had some updates. Then we also have a number of new newer packages in the YT ecosystem. So we split off some of the array compression modules of main YT into a separate package. libyt is an exciting new package that does some in situ data analysis as you're running simulations so that you can use YT on the fly. There's some work with connecting YT and X-ray that I talked about yesterday a little bit in the talk. And then there's a YT Napari plugin that allows you to load YT data into Napari so they can make images like this using the GUI, which is exciting. And then there's also a new external YT front-end plugin for aspect and more general PVTU files, so you can load in unstructured meshes a bit easier. So thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, now up on PyBind and nanobind, we have an update from your local tools plenary celebrity, Henry Schreiner.
I've been up here before. Okay, So I have an update on PyBind 11 and nanobind. So you can think of these as a C++, the sort of like the missing C++ API for Python. So for PyBind 11, we actually had our last release on SciPy last year, and this release is coming out, and the next release is coming out today. But so we've sort of slipped into CDD, or conference-driven development. But we've had a variety of smaller releases in the meantime. So we've added things like Python 3.11 support and better support for PyDide and cross-compiling to ARM on Windows, things like that. The release is coming out today. We'll have 3.12 beta support. It'll actually have a ABI bump. We're making an ABI bump based on the Python version, which is nice. And then if you've seen this, people like in SciPy have seen this. We temporarily changed this default, and we backed off on it, but we are finally changing it now that we're doing 2.11. So I think everybody's updated, but if not, this is your warning. Okay. And then I also want to mention as sort of a new tool from the creator of PyBind 11, nanobind, which was written this last year. And it's designed with sort of higher requirements here. But if you use it, it's a much smaller. He wrote PyBind 11 to be a smaller version of Boost Python, while he wrote nanobind to be a smaller version of PyBind 11. And it's got some nice features, but it also has a lot of missing things that aren't really planned to be added in. Your binding should really conform to nanobind's requirements rather than nanobind trying to support all of C++ like PyBind 11 does. And this is one thing that I'm particularly excited about because it's using a variety of different things. A lot of these things are things I'm involved in. And we made this possible. So this is in the nanobind example. And you can see there in the CMake list that there's this interesting SABI thing there. Well, if you build this on Python 3.12, you'll actually get a stable ABI wheel, and you won't have to build this binary again for 3.13, 3.14, or future versions of Python 3. It will just work. And the features to make this possible went into CPython 3.12, so you have to use the beta one or more recent. Scikit build core has built-in support for this now, so you just set that, and it knows to build individual wheels before and stable ABI wheels after. Pretty recent version of, or somewhat recent version of CI build wheel, the latest versions of CMake and nanobind, but all these things work together, and that's now possible. Hopefully something like this will be coming to PyBind 11 in the future as well. Okay, so we're working on PyBind 11, adding some of these things from nanobind, and we have some experimental support for multi-dimensional arrays, and we will be dropping Python 3.6 soon.
Thank you, Henry. I was hoping he would go over so I could bring out the claw, but maybe another time. Okay, now we have an update on NetworkX by Mriddle Seth.
Hi everyone. So NetworkX is a pure Python package for graph theory and network sciencey things. And since the last SciPy, we have had 2 releases, 3.0 and 3.1. In 3.0, we removed a lot of deprecated code. So if you have been avoiding all the deprecation warnings, now is the time to fix that. And we also added like an experimental dispatching feature, because one of the biggest pain points of NetworkX is that it's a pure Python library by design, and that sometimes end up in some performance issues. So we have teamed up with people working on GraphPlus, and it's still experimental. It's still a very experimental feature. You can kind of dispatch your NetworkX code to GraphPlus and get all the performance benefits of GraphPlus. And we would love to have more people try it out. And on that train, we also started working on a new thing just a couple of weeks back, NX-Parallel. It's a joblib-backed parallel implementation of NetworkX. It's nowhere anywhere there, but that's the idea. And hopefully later this year, we'll also have a NetworkX backend for cuGraph. So if you have GPUs, if you like GPUs, you should be able to use that. And with all of these things, that this may converge into something like a graph API, like our API, data frame API. Maybe we should have a graph API. It's not a well thought out idea, but if there's anyone in the room who's interested in something like this, please reach out. And the other thing we have is NetworkX guides. We have been working on long form narrative documentation. It's not an API reference. It's not like a tutorial. It's just explaining concepts of network science or graph theory to people using NetworkX. And over the last year, we have participated in multiple rounds of outreach, GSOC. We have had good experience there. So if you have the resources and time, I would recommend doing that. And a lot of this work was possible from a CGI grant, so thanks to that. And we'll be around for the sprints too, so if you want to do some network sciencey things, please show up. Thanks.
Thank you, Myrtle. So, if you can't tell, I'm feeling a little bit chaotic, so now we have an update on SciPy by Pamphile.
What was that? Hi, everyone. So I'm Pamphile, working at QuantSight and presenting you some updates on SciPy. So we've been doing 2 releases during the last year, 1.10 and 1.11. First, I will start with some community updates. So here we are really happy that now we have 3 new maintainers. So Melissa, who's there, and she gave a presentation yesterday about DEI. We have H. Veterinary, and we have Jake Bowie. So really happy to have 3 new members on our team. And in terms of community, we are very active. We have now monthly newcomers meetings. Everybody's welcome to join. We're merging peers in live with newcomers. We have bi-weekly community meetings where you can meet maintainers and discuss about future plans in SciPy, what we're doing, how we work. You can ask any questions. And finally, we have DEI working groups where we discuss a lot of things. So this is not just, that's the initiative Melissa and others have presented yesterday. And it's not just limited to SciPy. And lastly, on the community side, we are grateful for all the founders who are supporting our work. So NumFOCUS, TideLift, we have a few small developer grants. We have CZDI, of course, with a DEI grant, and also tools for biomedical usage. And lastly, we have some sponsors which are sponsoring the, allowing us to work on our company time, so Los Alamos for Tyler and QuantSight for myself. On the code itself, we had a very interesting year. So more than 1,000 PRs got merged from over 200 people. A lot of features, especially in stats. So Sobol indices, DNet, ECDF, logrank, false discovery control. Hopefully this rings a bell for biomedical users doing survival analysis and things like that. We're very excited about this. If you have any feedbacks, welcome. There is a huge work on sparse with at the last Scientific Python Community Summit. The task team was meeting together, and they did a lot of updates here. We have lazy loading. You can now finally do import SciPy without having any performance impact. So you can do import SciPy as SP even if you want. And on interpolated side, we thanks to a grant, we also managed to really cut the backlog. A few updates here on some modules that we're deprecating or creating. And yeah, wheels on Muscle Linux. This is very exciting. You can now use Alpine without having to compile SciPy. And finally, some sneak peeks. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're actively working on sparse. If that's interesting for you, get in touch. And also, we merged this week experimental support for our API. So I'm actually actively working on this topic with a student at QuantSight, so Lucas Colley. And so, yeah, you will not soon be able to use any array-compatible arrays into SciPy, and a few other nice things on Statet Optimize coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamphile. Actually, at that same developer summit, Myrtle gave like a kind of lightning talk about how he, along with a lot of other people, should be wrapped in bubble wrap. So if you ever see him, stick some onto him. So up now we have an update on NumPy by Melissa Mendoza.
I'm glad I don't have to use the claw. No, thank you. Oh no. Horrible people. Okay. So, hello everybody. Yeah, so I'm here to give some updates on NumPy, and I'm glad Pamphile went before me because we have a lot that we're doing in common. So a lot of the community work that he was mentioning, we're also doing at NumPy, the newcomer meetings, community meetings, and other work that we're doing. It's a joint effort. I'm here to give also some technical updates. So first of all, we've had 2 updates since last year. So in 1.25.0, you can now build against 1.25.0 and at runtime use older NumPy versions. So this happened because of the way the C API is exported. And so you don't need to use the oldest supported NumPy meta package anymore. So you can check the documentation for more details on how to do that. We also provide wheels for Muscle Linux now, so same as SciPy. And we have 2 new specialized namespaces, numpy.exceptions and numpy.dtypes, that reorganize the namespace a little bit to make it more findable. I'm not doing the claw, I'm sorry. I'm just distracted. So in both 1.24.0 and 1.25.0, we focused on performance a lot. So ufunc.add is up to 9 times faster, and the call overhead on many functions was improved, specifically functions related to the array function machinery. A lot of SIMD improvements have been made as well, in particular using AVX 512 on x86, better Neon support on 64-bit ARM, and new support for IBM Z systems. There's a lot of other stuff going on as well. So in December 22, our first developer in residence position was fulfilled. So Syed Adel is working on a lot of the SIMD updates that I'm highlighting here. Our NumPy docs team is now co-led by Ross Bernowski and Mukalika Pahari, which is really exciting. NumPy is also participating in the 2023 Google Season of Docs project, and we are super excited to see that Mars Lee is going to be working on NumPy comics. So stay tuned for that in the next few months. Yay! We have a few new maintainers, so Mukalika Pahari and Nathan Goldbaum joined as maintainers, and Brigitta Shipox, who's also here, also joined as maintainer for our NumPy tutorials repo, which is the repository where we keep the notebook tutorials that are served on numpy.org. To the future, we have a couple of things to look forward to. So we have a big release coming up in around December, January, if everything goes well. So we'll have a 2.0. So get ready, this is going to be disruptive. So we request that all package authors please add a smaller than 2.0 constraint to build and runtime requirements, and plan to release an updated version of your package once there are release candidates for NumPy 2.0. There will be a NumPy 126 release in between, which switches the build system to Meson. This will be first release that supports Python 3.12. I'm nervous, I'm just like, and NumPy.org translations are almost here, so stay tuned for that as well. We want to have translation into several different languages. If you're interested in participating in translating, please let us know. Sorry.
NumPy 2.0 is coming for us.
It's coming, beware.
For all of us.
It was told to us in the comics. You've been warned. Okay. So now we have an update on Jupyter and Binder given by Paul Ivanov and Carol Willing. You better use the claw. We don't have the claw. The claw's right there.
The claw's right there.
Oh, cool. I live closer to the beach. I get the claw. And you get to do the first slide.
Okay. Hey, I'm Paul. This is Carol. We're from Jupyter. Does anyone use Jupyter? Nobody uses it. So we're a small project. Please look us up. We're really trying to, no. So here are some updates. We've had a refactor of our governance model. We now have steering councils for many of the sub-projects, and there's a council of councils that gets together. So yeah, it's getting serious. I think it's getting pretty serious. JupyterCon was back in person for the first time in maybe 4 or 5 years. Thank you, Carol. And also we had a new cohort of the annual cohort of the Jupyter Distinguished Contributors. Jupyter Lab 4.0 was released. Yay! Thank you all distinguished contributors and all contributors in general. Jupyter Lab 4.0 was released. Jupyter Notebook 7 is coming. RC1 is already, maybe 2 already is on the way. That will be the notebook that is based on the same Jupyter Lab components. So if you have really ancient classic notebook extensions, some of those will need to get migrated, or you'll need to pin to 6, and you've been getting warnings about that in 6, so that's all fair game. Jupyter Lite is taking off. Lots of projects are using it. It's great. And IPy Widgets 8 was released last fall, so hopefully you're using that.
I'm going to give one shout out on the Notebook 7 improved accessibility stuff. Isabella did a great stewardship of accessibility over multiple years and did a really great talk yesterday. So do check it out in the recordings. And without further ado,
yes,
you might be better to.
Yeah, then.
So on the other more foundational side of things, Jupyter Hub 4.0 was released. It was a major release, but not a ton of user-facing changes other than the fact that we switched to Jupyter Server and did some security kind of fixes along the way. A little bit of sad news, we lost our largest contributor of credits for Binder. So that may impact the speed and whatnot, but if you have spare capacity, please get in touch with the project. We are in the process of making major releases of Zero to Jupyter Hub, so you can run things on Kubernetes. And the littlest Jupyter Hub for folks that like to deploy it in a simpler format are currently in pre-release. We would love testers and then Jupyter Server 2.0 was a big effort, and it was released earlier this year. And that's it.
That's it.
It was hard to do the claw, I think.
Yeah.
Hard to do the claw.
Hard to do the claw.
The rebels. I'll talk to you later. But please, Binder is in need of more credits, please. Please help them. Okay, up now we have a presentation on Ibis by Gil Forsyth. Clock.
Hi everyone, I'm Gil. Thank you. I'm the last one, I think. I'm here to give an update about Ibis. For any of you that don't know what Ibis is, it provides a consistent data frame interface to 17 plus, maybe 18, I've lost count, kind of execution backends. Some of those are things you'll be familiar with, like Dask and Polars and PySpark. Most of them, though, are SQL-based engines, which you might want to use because SQL engines can be very fast, or you might need to use because maybe that's where your data are, but you probably don't want to use because SQL is really difficult. But once you use it regularly, learn more about it, it's even worse. To sort of give you a quick idea of what the kind of things Ibis can do, on top you can see if you have a data set called Star Wars, you want to select a column named name and any columns that match the word color somewhere, and then pivot longer that, which is like a melt in pandas, and then you want to kind of dump that all out into a table. On top, that's what it looks like in Ibis. On the bottom, that's how you'd write that in SQL. We do not recommend doing this by hand. And that's what you kind of get out of that. So we just released Ibis 6.0. We have some pretty good UDF support. We now support SQL dialect translation in .SQL, which means you can write like Oracle SQL and pass it through to DuckDB, and we'll just make that work for you. You can export to what PyTorch calls tensors, which clearly are not tensors because they do not support tensor algebra. We have TriCast support, Dunder data frame support. We have a Streamlit experimental interface, and Delta Lake read and write support. Here are all of the very many ways you can install Ibis, and here are all the backends we currently support: BigQuery, ClickHouse, Dask, DataFusion, Druid, DirectDB, Impala, MSQL, MySQL, Oracle, Polars, Postgres, PySpark, Snowflake, SQLite, and Trino. And you can find us on the internets. We have some docs and a web page. That's where we're on GitHub, Twitter, Matrix, and then my colleague Philip Cloud has a weekly stream, usually on Mondays, called Philip in the Cloud, where you can check out fun stuff we're doing in Ibis. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Gail. This concludes our plenary session and the one for the entire conference. So sad. Thank you, even though we went a bit over, for bearing with us. We hope we didn't make you too crabby. So if you were watching this and you're like, what about my project? So for some context, the plenary is invite only, but we do select out of a list of various projects that we all evaluate and vote on. And so, we don't know every project out there. So if you think that your project should be up for consideration and you want to see it, please let us know on Slack.